The Karate Kid is one of my favourite films of all time. It's one of the first films I fell in love with, and it is one of the films that has made me into the person and filmmaker I am today, which, yes, I'm a filmmaker, but you will see that in the coming years. So today, I just kind of want to go on a little bit of a tangent about why I love The Karate Kid. From the offset, it was clear that this film was going to be so much more than just another 80s cheesy flick. I mean, the moment that the Bill Conti score swells up and we see the sprawling shots of America, the entirety of America, New Jersey to California, as Daniel and his mother drive cross country to their new home. From the dialogue and the first scene in which we see the two, we get fantastic character building that not only shows their roots from the mean streets of Jersey, but also their financial situation. A single mother and her teenage son on the road trying to make a better life for themselves. I mean, it's a journey that so many people can relate to, and that's one of the best things about The Karate Kid. It's relatability. This opening scene is a lesson in characterization. The hopeful optimism of Daniel's mother rubs off on the viewer, and Daniel shows himself to be a witty, likable, yet clearly flawed protagonist. As the opening runs on, we get one of the most iconic introductions of all time as we see Mr. Miyagi, and the theme of things not being as they seem comes up for the first time. That theme of misdirection is one of the most important things in the Karate Kid series as a whole, and this opening scene does it to perfection, showing Mr. Miyagi initially as being potentially one of those stereotypical, cliched, hard-nosed karate masters. Cold, unbothered, passive-aggressive, three things that Mr. Miyagi is definitely not. Cut forward to the beach party and we get our first taste of cheesy 80s action flickery. A trope that more than stands the test of time, as we see a group of teenagers playing soccer on a beach with the cheesiest possible 80s song playing in the background. The way that John G. Avildsen and Bill Conti used this licensed music in juxtaposition to Bill Conti's beautiful score is fantastic. The contrast of the flutes and drums of Conti's score with the synths and the guitars the synths. It's so hard to say the word synths. You get what I'm saying. It is a fantastic contrast that is representative of the contrast between Daniel and Mr. Miyagi himself. One absorbed with cheesy 80s corporate America, the other carrying his spirituality and his martial arts from a small Okinawan village. This contrast is presented throughout the film in various ways, such as Mr. Miyagi's home being a place of tranquility and nature being placed directly in the middle of an oil field, a place of chaos that is antithetical to everything Mr. Miyagi represents. Cutting back to the beach, we get our love interest, Ali, and from the moment Daniel signifies his attraction to her, it is made clear that this relationship is built on chemistry and nothing more. This is a high school fling, a fleeting romance, and it's never presented as anything more than that, which not only feels realistic, but also unintentionally sets up many plot points for future entries into the series. This fleeting high school romance is something so many people can relate to, and this relatability comes back around when we meet Johnny Lawrence, leader of the Cobra Kai gang. Now, relatability might not be the first word you think of when you think of Johnny Lawrence. However, it's something that's deeply important to his character. One of the first lines that we ever hear from Johnny in the entire series is that he wants to clean up his act, that he wants to become an ex-degenerate, that he wants to use his last year of school to truly do his best. He wants to genuinely become a better person, and from the offset, this positions Johnny as a sympathetic villain. And when the scene goes on, the layers to his character and the greyness of the morality that surrounds Johnny is built up even more. Johnny, seeing his ex with another guy, understandably becomes overcome with emotion, and whilst Johnny undoubtedly isn't in the right when he pushes Daniel over, Daniel isn't necessarily in the right either when he confronts Johnny back. Even when the two start fighting, Johnny takes initial care to be as non-aggressive as possible, simply dodging and blocking Daniel's moves until Daniel eventually sucker punches him. There are plenty of people out there who even present Johnny Lawrence as the hero of The Karate Kid. However, I would argue that neither Johnny or Daniel are the hero or the villain of this film. Both are simply misguided and flawed characters overcome with emotion, and that's why in Cobra Kai years later, they're presented as morally equal. Daniel is compassionate, yes, but he's impulsive, he's quick to get involved in situations that don't concern him, and he's overly defensive. And Johnny shares this impulsiveness, along with an aggression that is built upon by Johnny Kreese, his mentor. This film isn't about good overcoming evil. It's not even about the Karate Kid overcoming the school bully. It's about Daniel and Johnny learning to tolerate each other and be compassionate. Neither boy is evil, neither boy is genuinely mean-spirited, but neither of them understand the importance of humility. They don't understand the importance of tolerating those they disagree with and reserving indignation towards the other. With the two boys being philosophically connected by the end, end though, the film leaves space for another moral conflict, and this conflict is embodied by the two mentors of the Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi and John Kreese. Both Daniel and Johnny are boys without fathers, at least without fathers we see, and this gaping hole in the two boys' lives at such an important developmental stage immediately heightens the importance of the male figures they come across, both in Miyagi and Kreese. Thanks to the absence of these mentor figures, both Johnny and Daniel crave validation and guidance, and although both receive that, the difference is in the conditionality of it. Whereas Mr. Miyagi genuinely cares for Daniel, genuinely wishes the best for him, Kreese instead sees Johnny as an opportunity to further his own career, and so instills in Johnny a ruthless value system that's ideal for winning short-term competitions, but not for living a long and prosperous life. The contrasting values of these mentors is also presented in the boys' personalities in quite a surprising way. Daniel from the offset of the film is presented as far more impulsive, hot-headed and confrontational, as opposed to Johnny, who's always presented as more diplomatic and level-headed. This gives even more credence to the idea that Daniel, especially at the start of the Karate Kid, has more intrinsic values of a bully than Johnny does. Through Mr. Miyagi, has to learn to restrain his impulsiveness and his aggression, whereas Johnny, who has a more natural good heart, has to be saved from being manipulated into a dark and vicious cycle. Speaking of Kreese manipulating good people to do bad things, that brings us to one of the most significant side characters in the Karate Kid, Bobby, who acts as a prime example of a good person being manipulated into being ruthless and aggressive, reminding the audience of the idea that no one, no matter how good, is ever impervious to evil seeping into their lives. Anyone has the capability to become the absolute worst person of themselves, and all it can take is their environment, their surroundings, and their mentors. This concept goes back as far as the human race itself, with nearly every single major human atrocity being committed by people that were simply in an environment that normalized and encouraged evil behavior. And the Karate Kid brings this moral issue up in a very interesting and almost heartbreaking way, as we see Bobby immediately disgusted with himself after committing a heinous act as he injures Daniel in the final competition. And that is just one of so many relatable ideas that are sprinkled through this film, with the coming-of-age tale presenting so many timeless and universal issues that have helped the film maintain the relevance it has even to this day. For more in-depth ideas like the human capabilities of evil, the importance of both strong mother and father figures, the ethics of violence as a means to an end, finding inner spiritual balance, all the way down to things like meeting a girl's parents for the first time, feeling inadequate because of where you live and the hardships of moving away from home. The film struck such a chord with teenagers, young adults and audiences everywhere back in 1984, with the karate itself just being a means to tell an incredible coming of age story that still resonates today. And it's because of that staying power, that continued relevance and that genuine relatability, combined with a character journey that is more than satisfying, that I consider the Karate Kid to personally be a genuine masterpiece. And if you know me, you know that I do not use the word masterpiece lightly. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit like, and if you're new here and want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe with post notifications turned on. If you want to support the channel, my Patreon link is in the description. And with all that being said, I've been Joe, aka Found a Scarab, and I will see you in the next one.